keeps prices down far more effectively.
As long as suffering of sentient being remain, I will remain in order to serve.
I imagined God like my grandfather.
In Conversations tonight, I have a unique guest. He has been responsible for the building of more than 700 toilets, but more importantly, for the upliftment of scavengers all over India. He's known as the Sulabh Man. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak.
Thank you.
Dr. Pathak, could you tell us the magnitude of your achievement with Sulabh, and not just in the number of toilets that you have built, which has been astounding, but what has been the implications of building toilets, apart from the fact, of course, that it is a facility that gets offered to people in urban areas, but beyond the facility, it has very large and substantive sociological implications.
You are correct. Actually, the first thing is the human rights. Building toilet is not important. The important is what Mahatma Gandhi had unfinished task. He wanted that nobody should carry the human skeleton of others. And those people still, they are called scavengers. And before independence, they used to be called untouchables. So Mahatma had a dream that they should be relieved from this subhuman occupation, and they should be given some job and should have respectful position in society.
How many people has your initiative impacted in these terms?
About 40,000 persons who were engaged in this occupation. They have been relieved from this subhuman occupation and provided they have got employment also. So out of 600,000, 40,000 persons have been relieved by us, by our efforts. The important is not the number. The important is that we have shown the way. That if this nation wants to relieve those scavengers from this subhuman occupation, the technology which we have given is very important. Now, it has two important functions. One, on the one hand, we are going to do away with the system of human manual collection, and on the other hand, the mothers and sisters and brothers who still go outside for open defecation, they will get the opportunity, because the technologies developed in India was not affordable earlier. So this is, there are so many functions attached to this movement. It's not only building of toilets, as you rightly said. So on the one hand, we want to restore the human rights of those scavengers. On the other hand, we want to provide the facilities to protect the environment from environmental pollution. Because when we talk about the environment and the pollution, we talk about ozone layers and biodiversity, felling of trees. But in India, out of 900 million people, 700 million people still go outside for open defecation. So there are a number of works, and again we have problems for the sons and daughters of these scavengers, because they are not given quality education. This country has given reservation to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, but they have not provided quality education, so they are unable to come at par with others.
Dr. Pathak, tell us, you set out one day from home to study criminology.
Right.
And many years later, you ended up with a PhD looking at the issue of scavenging and the rehabilitation of the outcasts. Yeah. What brought about this sort of radical shift, as it were, in your intentions?
I would say it's maybe a destiny. I wanted to finish my studies, and I wanted to complete my studies in MSc in criminology. The day I was going to take my admission in Sagar University in Madhya Pradesh, I got down from the train to have a cup of tea, and two persons who know me, they came to buy some newspapers. So they saw me and talked. I told them where I was going. And they said, no, no, you should not go. After 2 years, if you come back, you will get a post of lecturer, and that you will get rupees 450 rupees after 2 years. So there is job of rupees 600, permanent job in Gandhi Sangrahalaya in Patna. So better you should come and join there. There was no job. The information was incorrect. But the man who introduced all these things, he took me there. There was no job. He forced me to join there. So I had to join as a social worker in the Gandhi Centenary Committee, which was constituted to celebrate the birth centenary of Mahatma Gandhi in the year 1968.
The Gandhi Centenary Committee that you became a member of and in time resigned because you were unhappy with their interpretation of Gandhi.
Yes.
Why did you resign?
Actually, the Gandhians, I mean the old Gandhians, they wanted that the institutions should not involve itself in the implementation of the program. They wanted that they should keep confined only to the propagation of ideas. And secondly, to run the organization, they wanted to get only donations and grants. They did not want that organization should earn its own money. I thought, and I said to them, that it means the program is not going to be extended on larger scale. If you are dependent on grant of the government, one state government will not give grant for other state. So I said, we'll have to do both. On the one hand, you will have to propagate the ideas. On the other hand, you will have to implement, maintain and follow up them so that people could believe it, what we are saying.
You know, here were you without sort of much of a background,
Right.
either in management, in raising money. How did you go about setting up this organization? What were the first steps that someone takes?
Yes, yes,
there are several of us who sort of who don't find the time and the courage and the initiative to fulfill sort of our fantasies of doing something for the community. What happens in small town Bihar for someone to step out?
Actually, what happened that I was working in Gandhi Centenary. That organization has to be closed after 6 months. Chief Minister of Bihar, Mr. Darga Prasad Rai, he wanted this program to go ahead. So he was of the opinion that social programs cannot be implemented by the government agencies alone. So he wanted the help of any social organization. And he said, if 2 agencies combine together, any program of social importance can be implemented and fulfilled. So he said to look for any organization which can work for this liberation of scavengers. So Minister concerned, he asked me to form this organization. So I resigned from there. On the one ground I wanted to resign, and he also suggested me to resign and to form this organization.
How important do you think in your kind of work or in sort of voluntary work, the patronage of government, how important is that and has that been for you?
It is very important. Actually, the government agencies and NGOs, if they combine together, then the government can mobilize the fund, they can do monitoring, evaluation of the program, but implementation and maintenance and follow-up can be done by NGO speedily and effectively. Because in the government, officers are talented, dynamic, they can do, nobody can deny this. But because they are chained by different laws, so even if they want to do something very quickly, they cannot do.
Well, you know, most people's perception of government is that any time you have anything to do with the government, it makes life somewhat difficult.
My experience is totally different. Maybe out of 100 offices, 1% or in my whole life I can just recount, maybe 5-7 persons who, because of not they wanted something against, but because of lack of communication, we could not convince them. So they must be against us. But I think in the last 26 years, I have met the officials and whole country we are implementing the program because of the collaboration of the government. So what is important, the NGOs who run the NGOs, they will have to put up their case convincingly. You should not say anybody, no, you are not able to answer me, or you are not understanding the problem. Rather, you can say that we are unable to convey you properly.
So you go about setting up this Sulabh organization. What were the major difficulties that you had? What were the major obstacles that you had?
Obstacles, sometimes the people who do not understand, they sometimes come in the way.
Who were these people?
Some officers maybe, some politicians maybe. They sometimes, but not because of anything, but lack of communication. When they also came to know, they understood and they started helping. So these are the one thing, and one thing is the success of the program. When we have become success, some people become envious for no fault. So that is also one of the problems.
You know, sometimes it's our perception that there are political vested interests that want to keep people in their position of being exploited, and they tend to resist change. Has that been your experience?
Sometimes they do, but if you maintain the distance, then there is no problem. Suppose in a state, the chief minister is the main, then the minister concerned, then the local MLAs, then the chairman of the local bodies. These are the people who are elected. So you will have to keep them in confidence and have to work with them. But you cannot toe their line totally, but you cannot go away totally from them. So you will have to blend with their ideas also, and to not to toe their line, but if you maintain a proper distance, then there is no difficulties.
Are there any examples that you can give us that when you were setting out that you encountered the problem and how you went around solving it?
Actually, we have started from one state to another, and now I can tell you Haryana. The government of Haryana wanted a letter from us. In Sulabh, we have kept a system that unless invited by any state government, any agency, we do not go for implementation of the program. We do everything free, the motivation, propagation, training, but for implementation, unless we are invited, we don't go.
Why is that?
It will keep your this prestige intact, because this is a construction work. If you go them, then they will think otherwise. So if you go on your own, if they feel that we should go and extend their help, then this is more important. Therefore, what we did in Haryana, we kept silent for 9 years. And when Mr. Bhajanlal, he became the chief minister, then he invited us after 9 years, and the program started there. So that state took 9 years to think over whether to write letter to the Sulabh or to get letter from Sulabh. We had stuck to get a letter from government.
So you've set up this organization under the sort of the patronage of the government, and then what do you do?
Actually, suppose if you want to set up a toilet anywhere, the government direction has to go. Otherwise, the local bodies will not accept. So when the government recognizes the organization, then you move out to local bodies. Then you go there, they have to provide the land for the construction and money for the construction also. So land and the finance, both are made available by the local bodies. Our role is to mobilize the people. We go house to house to the beneficiary. We must motivate them, persuade them, give them literature, and when they agree, then we put up the toilets in the individual houses. So then we take the form from them. They have not to go to local bodies. Our people go to local bodies. They have to be in the homes. They have just to apply, and all processes are done by our workers with local bodies. So it is only one program in India where the beneficiaries have to not to move out anywhere. They have only to see the construction is done properly or not. So the whole process from motivation to education, training, implementation, and the follow-up. Follow-up is individual toilet of 5 years. It's free of cost if some defects develop.
Tell us the technology that you've developed for these toilets.
The technology it is superseding the earlier technologies of septic tank. Septic tank, we have a main chamber and there soak pit. What we have done in Sulabh, we have eliminated the main chamber. That is not required. So we have 2 pits here, one used at a time. When one is full after 2 years or 6 years, 8 years, so after 2 years it becomes manual. So you can switch over to another one. and that fertilizer can be taken out from site and can be used as a fertilizer in the field. This is the only technology where on-site disposal is possible. In septic tank, if you allow to be constructed, then who will clean? Because the day it is cleaned, there is a raw night soil in the upper portion and decomposed sludge in the bottom. So it can be cleaned only by the cesspit impetters, this machine. We don't have large number of cesspit impetters in India, so only it has to be done by manually. Even if we have these machines, then we have to keep that raw night soil and decomposed sludge further for 2 years at a different place for further decomposition. So septic tank has become obsolete technology because of development of this Sulabh. So what we have proved that septic tank and the sewage systems are not required in India. Only by this technology, 2 things can be achieved. One, the relieving of scavengers from subhuman occupation, and those persons who are going outside for defecation, they cannot go.
Now the scavenger is relieved from this this task, this job. You know, what you've taken initiatives to provide alternatives for him in terms of employment and occupation and education.
Yeah, we have 5-6 programs. One is the liberation I told you earlier. Other is the rehabilitation. We see that they must get employment either in the government or outside.
How successful have you been in numbers in this?
Actually, I told you earlier that 40,000 scavengers have been relieved.
How many of them have got employment?
All. That is a success, because you will not find any agitation in this program. We were apprehending some agitation when I started this program, but because all have been provided with employment, so there is no agitation at all. For the sons and daughters who are grown up, we have started this training program in different vocations like tailoring, the typing, the computer, fashion technology, then this beauty parlor.
In fact, you have an English medium school in Delhi.
Yes. Also, we have started one English medium school in Delhi for the scavengers. 60% are scavengers children and 40% are other. So what we say that English is the international language. Unless you teach them, they cannot come at par with others. On the other one hand, we have Springdales and Bluewells. And on the other hand, you don't have the quality education. So the scheduled caste people, if they are not given proper quality education, they won't be able to come at par with others. So therefore, it is necessary that they should learn through this process also. Also, we have a program for social upgradation. So we have requested the elite class people to have social interaction with them, and also to allow them to have some food, some lunch or dinner, or vice versa, they should go to the functions. So we have many people like Manishankar Iyer, Margaret Alba, K.K. Venugopal, Dilipad Gaonkar, Salman Khurshid. These are the people who have adopted scavengers families, and they are, we are very happy to receive their report that they are allowing them to have interaction with them. So there are 5-6 ways we want to bring them in mainstream of the society.
You've also taken, sort of made significant breakthroughs in the production of biogas. In fact, you were perhaps the first person to develop this technology. Yeah. What has been the implications of this, and what exactly does it do?
This is we say wealth from the West. When I started this toilet construction program in public toilets, so in public toilet, the human excreta can go either to sewer or to septic tank. I said if you go to septic tank, there is no use of human excreta. So I got this idea from a tribal family from Madhya Pradesh, in Indore. So that tribal family used to use the cow dung and this human excreta for obtaining biogas and took food. So I got this idea in 1977. I worked on this for 5 years, and finally in 1982 I installed one plant in Patna, and there we are getting biogas from human excreta only. There is no any cow dung, use of cow dung. And from there we are using this biogas for cooking, for burning lamps, for warming bodies during winter season, and also we are converting this biogas into energy.
How widespread and how successful has been the application of this technology?
We have 65 plants so far in India. Now it is for the government to popularize this scheme, because since last 14 years they are working very well, and there is no lacuna in the scheme now.
And how many people is each plant able to serve?
From 500 to 8,000, 10,000 people per day. Like if you go to Bombay and Patna itself, the Gandhi Maidan, we have large numbers of toilets. So there, if we have, suppose in Delhi we have 150 seats. So it is from 500 to about 8 to 10,000 persons per day. Like Delhi railway station, if you go, you will see like this.
You know, as someone who's been a Gandhian, inspired by Gandhi, and has worked for the upliftment of Gandhi's children, in a sense, are you despairing that that Gandhi has now become more rhetoric than inspiring for most Indians?
No, Gandhi is inspiring for most Indians, but the way Gandhi is used, that has become rhetoric. What is important is that you will have to blend your ideas. What Gandhi said, he wanted to develop village. He wanted women to be educated. He wanted cotton industry to be encouraged. But we cannot go in toto what Gandhi said. But what has happened, the Gandhians have followed his food habits, his clothings. So they are not following his principles, ideas, what he said. We should do and show to people. So what Gandhians are doing, they have just following how Gandhi used to eat, what types of food he used to eat, the way he was used to wear clothes. It is not, he may be Gandhian more than anybody else. It's not necessary to wear khadi and then only be Gandhian. So that is become a problem. So when you say rhetoric, it means those who are talking about his food, his habits, on his clothing, his income, his austerity, that is rhetoric. But if you say non-violence, the truth, the development of the village, if you say scavenging free program like this, then Gandhi is applicable today, maybe applicable tomorrow also. So in my opinion, Gandhian ideas will remain valuable for the Indians for all the time to come.
What are some of these you've mentioned non-violence, you've mentioned commitment to truth, but in the context of the globalization of the economy, of so much consumerism coming in, and Gandhi's had a very important contribution to sort of the economic structuring, restructuring, as it were.
Right.
Are you despairing? How do you respond to this?
No, actually, Gandhi's days was under imperial with British colony at that time. Now we are free. So what Gandhi said, we can modify and then implement. So Gandhi wanted that the achievements and the fruits should go to the poor, should go to the needy. This can be done even today. That if whatever you are getting from liberalization, the development, the fruits of development, how it can be utilized to the poor, to the needy, that is important. So we can blend both. We can have the fruits of liberalization, allowed to develop, and then pass on to these things to the persons who are engaged and also persons who are needy. So that way we can have the benefits of both the liberalization and the Gandhian philosophies. So what Gandhi says today, certainly we will have to modify today. So what is the problem? You rightly asked this question about rhetoric. What Gandhi said in those contexts, we will have to change that also, where it is needed. We cannot implement all things Gandhi said in toto. So in my opinion, I think there is no contradiction between the liberalization of economy and the Gandhian philosophies of economic development.
Would you describe yourself as a Gandhian, and in what ways?
I am both, because Gandhi was a leader. Gandhi was never called a Trotskyist, a Marxian, because he was, although he was influenced by the philosophy of Marx, Tolstoy, Ruskin, unto the last. So and he was also influenced by the religion of Gita Upanishad. Nobody said Gandhi as a Marxist or Tolstoyan or Ruskian. That way, I won't be called as a Gandhian. But the philosophies of Gandhi I have imbibed. I implement the ideas. In that way, I am a Gandhian. But in the way I am taking this movement, Sulabh movement on, we are developing our own philosophies, taking clue from the Mahatma Gandhis and from other.
So would you be able to sort of encapsulate for us what this philosophy that you're evolving and developing is?
The philosophy is that being in the family, you can do social work. It's not necessary to leave the house, to go away, and not to earn. You can earn your living, spend a very good life, but God has helped you to help someone. So whatever you earn by way of knowledge, by way of wealth, both should be shared to the people also. It is not for you alone. So that is the philosophy in Sulabh we are embarking upon, and we say that religion is one, cultures are many. So we should worship and we should have respect for all religions, for all cultures, and we should earn our livelihood, be in the family, and be good to others. That is the whole Sulabh movement.
What is the size of this movement? How many people sort of share this vision of the Sulabh movement, as it were?
Now, while I started from a small hut in Patna, way back in 1970, 7 people were there. Now we have about those 7 lakh people who have adopted this toilet in the houses. Apart from that, we have about 2 lakh people who are working for us part-time for this movement. And we have 35,000 people us working on the clock. And the total geographical area is the total for the country. We have 23 states and 800 branches. We are also working in Bhopal, in Bhutan, and this Nepal, Sri Lanka, we have uttered. The important thing is that technology which we have developed this year in Istanbul, not this year, that's in 1996, sorry. 1996, this has been declared globally best practice. So now this technology is good to about 3.5 billion people out of 5.5 billion on the Earth planet. So this technology is not applicable only to the country of India, but for the countries of Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. So this is one. Other is that this organization this year we have been given a special status in Economic and Social Council of United Nations. So now we can have our representative in New York, in Geneva, in Vienna, and all 5 places, other 5 places. So now we can participate in global debate on all these matters of sanitation, human rights, and this poverty alleviation, social development, sustainable development. So these are the ideas. The most important thing in Sulabh is that we have developed a sustained economy of the organization. Because the organizations are always depend upon the government and donations, therefore they are unable to deliver goods for sustained period, for long period. But here what we have developed, our economy is our own, therefore we can grow the way our people like.
Dr. Pathak, thank you very much.